last couple of times. I was in the hospital in pretty bad shape, and I'm glad I can join you. I still got a ways to go, but I'm getting a little better every day. But I'm here with you, and I hope you can hear me. I can't talk too loud, but I hope you all can hear me. And thanks to those of you who sent me cards and artwork. I really appreciate it. I mean, that meant a lot to me. So can you see my PowerPoint? I hope you can see this PowerPoint. I'm still a
Yes.
little out of it. Okay, so here was what I had. I just gave you this to look at while we were getting started. So here's parts of a wing, and here's the answer. This is the uh, well, part one here is the wing front, and then the wing bow, and then over here at number three we have the wing bar, and then four we have the secondary feathers, and five are the primary feathers, and there should be 10 of those, and then the axial feather, and we have the shoulder, and I think that's all the part. Did I miss anything? I think that's all of them. That's just some passive learning while we were waiting to get started. So uh, that might help you someday in showmanship or poultry judging. So tonight we're going to talk about avian influenza. And this is something that's been around for many, many years, but we're going to take a deep dive into it, or maybe not super deep dive, but a deep dive maybe for us. Certainly, you can take whole graduate courses probably on this, but we're going to do at least about an hour on it tonight and learn a little bit about the disease and how it might affect our backyard flocks. And it already has affected some poultry shows and even some dairy shows around the country this year, so I thought it would be topical. I know last time I think Ms. Prudence talked about biosecurity, so that's a good segue into this, and we'll probably pick up on some of those topics again tonight. And I really wanted to hammer this because it's been in the news, and it's been the state of Georgia, to my knowledge, hasn't opened up poultry shows. They canceled some of their big shows a few months ago, and I think there's still some cases they're dealing with up there. So anyway, we always start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So who would like to begin? Who would like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening? Anybody? Any volunteers? Bimini, you wanted to give us a? Can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? If you can unmute. I just happened to see her in my picture here. Well, I asked her.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And who would like to lead us in the 4-H pledge? Would anybody like to do
I can
that?
do that.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, do I need to put my video on?
You don't have to.
Okay, good. I pledge my head to clear thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to larger service, and my health for better living for my club, my community, my country, and my world.
All right. Well, we already saw Savannah's rooster, and so I appreciate her sharing that with us. So, what we're going to talk about today is a little bit about the basics of avian influenza, how to potentially spot an outbreak in your home flock, and how to protect your home flock. And that's going to harken back to what I would have imagined Miss Prudence talked about last time. And then I want to talk to you all about a contest that's coming up in June called the Avian Bowl contest. And some of you might have done that last year. We had a couple from this club do it last year. Last year was our third annual Avian Bowl contest, and I guess this summer will be our fourth annual, unless I get bucked off another horse between now and June and wind back up in the hospital. I'm planning on having it June 13th. So we'll talk about that. Um, we'll talk about that at the end. So I have this little comic here, and this chicken on the left says, "I'm a free range chicken man." I guess it's a rooster. And the one on the right says, "Big deal, I live in a gated community." And so it's in a chicken coop. It's in a chicken pen, actually. And so some of you have your chickens free range. Some of you have your chickens in a coop. And some of you might have some of your show birds in some cages. I don't know. And there's pros and cons of doing all of those, and you can see how all these choices would affect safety of the birds from predators as well as biosecurity. So there are pros and cons to having however you keep your chickens. There's different decisions to be made and different benefits and challenges for all. So I thought maybe that might be funny for you guys to see. All right, so let's jump right into avian influenza. So what is and this is, remember, our club now, we're pretty informal. So if you have a question or you want to show me a new biddy that you got, or you chicken laid a funny looking egg and you want to show everybody, I mean, you can always stop us. This is your club, and I hope you all are comfortable enough with me and with each other to remember that we take a lot of interruption in this club, and it's usually for something interesting or fun about chickens or turkeys or ducks or whatever. So don't be afraid to ask questions or interject or tell funny stories or show us a chicken. Okay? All right,
I
so
do
what
have
is
a
avian?
question,
Oh yeah, go ahead. Whoever that is, I don't know who you are, but go ahead.
Aiden.
Oh hey,
Um, so my chickens recently started laying,
okay,
like a few days back. We put a nesting box in there, and they're still laying in the same spot, which is underneath their roost.
okay.
How do I get them to lay in the nesting box?
So take one or two of the eggs that they lay and put in the nesting box and just leave it there, or get a golf ball or an Easter egg, like go to the Family Dollar or whatever and buy some of these plastic Easter eggs and put them in the nest box. The best thing would be to take one of their own eggs and put it in the nest box and leave it. And
Even
eventually
if
they'll come around.
we
What's that?
tried that, and our rooster kept pecking at the egg.
Well, get a
Get a
plastic
plastic
egg
one.
then. Yeah, get a plastic egg then.
Okay, so even
Yeah.
if he pecks at the plastic one, it will still like as soon as the egg has been laid, he won't try to eat it because I know that can
Well,
sometimes.
if you put a plastic egg in there, he pecks at it, and it's going to not feel good when he pecks it. So he'll,
Okay,
I
you'll
mean,
know.
their brains aren't that big. So if he pecks it and it hurts, if he pecks something around in the nest box that hurts him, he'll eventually learn to quit doing that. They don't have
Okay,
this
thank you.
way to sit around and philosophize. I mean, they're not that, I mean, they're not dumb, but they're certainly not, they won't figure, I don't think they'll figure that out. Now watch him make me a liar. I mean, I'm not going to make any promises, but I would try putting a plastic egg or a golf ball. If you can, somebody in your family golfs, that's another trick. But I
Okay,
would try that. Yeah.
all right, thanks.
Okay. Avian influenza is also known as bird flu, and I've been hearing about this my whole life. I'm sure Prudence, you probably have too. It's a respiratory disease. It's a flu. It's a flu that birds get. I mean, it's not the name. They didn't come up with a very creative name. I mean, it's avian, which is bird species, influenza or flu. And we get it. We have influenza. People get influenza. People can get strains of the bird flu. Evidently, cows and some other animals now can get different strains of the avian influenza. And it's mostly found in wild birds. So we're going to talk about those challenges with your home flock about wild birds momentarily. And so often there's no clinical signs in wild birds. A wild bird will be alive one day and dead the next, and you won't know why. And so maybe that bird had avian influenza, maybe it had something else, maybe it just died of old age. But it's kind of, I'm muted again. Can you all hear me? Laura says I'm muted.
No, that was before.
Oh,
Yeah, I
I'm
think that
sorry.
was a while ago. You're
We
good.
can hear
We
you.
got you. Bird flu, avian species. We got you. We're with
Okay.
you.
All right. Oh, I was, thought that, sorry. Uh, Avian influenza or bird flu can also be found in domesticated birds, and this is of probably biggest concern to us in this club, and it can cause illness and death. Have you all heard of the bird flu or avian influenza? Is this something that you all have heard of before? I'm sure if you watch the news, or I don't know if anybody reads a newspaper
Yeah,
anymore,
I've
but I'm
seen a
sure if you,
movie about it.
yeah. Well, we're going to see a little short film about it if we have time tonight too.
Dr. Chris, we had talked
Yeah.
about it last month when you were out. And one of the things we had really talked about, and I'm sure you're going to get into it, but this day and age with home deliveries, if I have my chickens free range and the Amazon guy gets out and walks on my property, and then he goes deliver something to Laura's house and she has stuff that free range chickens, and then we go see Lily and then Aiden and then Sarah, and I mean, what's on that guy's shoes?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is a challenge. And the chickens will go up on the porch or wherever, if you've got them free ranging, they'll go everywhere and they'll get into everything.
Oh
And
yeah.
so, and our packages we get are a lot of times filthy. I don't know why. I've been, they're right around on these dirt country roads in the back of a truck. They get filthy. So who knows what they've picked up. Let's see. Checking the chat out. Oh, Nadia, I bet your chicken that you just start laying, they a lot of times when they start laying, they'll start with real little bitty eggs. Or if they're getting ready to stop their lay cycle, sometimes they'll lay little eggs. Lily, you got your hand raised. What you want? What you got for us, Lily?
So my guineas, Guido's, the zombie birds, they've been chasing my chickens, like they've been bullying my chickens recently. And what am I supposed to do about that? Because it's starting to get bad, like where they're chasing the hens and even one of their own.
So you broke up there at the beginning. From I got, you've got some guinea fowl.
Yeah.
One of the guineas is chasing the chickens around and being kind of rough.
No, so I have 5 of them. 4 of them are. One of them is also being bullied.
The guineas bullying the chickens, or the chickens are bullying the guineas?
The guineas are bullying the chickens.
And is it the male guinea? Do you know, or is it just? Do you know how to tell the difference between the males and the females?
I don't know how. I've tried.
Okay.
I can't tell. Unless they lay an egg, I don't know.
The guinea hens will make a noise that sounds like protract, protract, protract. And then the guinea males make like kind of a rattling. It's like a shrieky rattle. But if you hear them going protract, 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 that's a female. Yeah. So I mean, but to answer your question, how to stop that? And all your birds are free range. Do you have a way to separate your guineas from your hens?
No,
Let's
they're all
see.
free range.
That's going to be a tough one if they're all free, and they've got plenty of room to get away from each other. So, are they pulling feathers from the hens, or are they just kind of chasing them all? Like, are they
They're
physically
chasing them all.
damaging?
They're chasing the roosters, the hens.
Yeah, guineas can be a challenge like that. Now they'll chase off a hawk too, and they'll chase off a snake. I mean, they have a lot of benefits, but they can be aggravating too.
Well,
And
have
so,
you tried separating them?
Can't. All free range.
Oh.
even if you could pin the guineas up for a few days, just to kind of, sometimes with fowl or even with mammals.
Yeah,
You
that's
got a
what I
rowdy
was
one.
thinking.
If you pin one up for a couple of days in a smaller pen, it just kind of takes and that might give you a month's reprieve, and then they'll get feeling their oats again. And I don't know if you've got a coop where you could isolate those guineas for a few days just to kind of get their attention, so to speak.
I could put them in my garage.
Well, I don't know about a garage, but maybe you could build yourself a little coop for them and try putting them in there. And that might, you don't have to leave them there permanently. Just leave them in there for a few days.
Dr.
Give your
Chris
chickens a
Keeley
break.
has her hand up. She might have a suggestion.
Oh,
Is
you
it
got a
Keeley?
suggestion?
Okay, I want to show you this quill egg.
Oh, quail egg? That's cool. Do you eat them, or are you going to incubate that, or what do you do with your quail eggs?
Sometimes we hatch them
Oh, that's awesome.
and
That's
eat
cool.
them.
Cool. What kind of quail?
Cortinix.
Cortunix. Okay. Well, back to your guinea. I think if you could get your little coop put up, even if you could pin those guineas up for a little while, that'll give your chickens a break. And I think it just gets their brain off of it. In other words, if the avian brain sometimes is very reactionary. And so if they're used to doing something, if you can interrupt that and mess up their routine, and that may just smooth things. And this time of year, how should I put this? Spring of the year, hormones are at work inside of some of your birds. Where if you can keep them calm for a few days or a few weeks, and maybe once some of these hormones work themselves out, maybe they won't be so aggressive.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Ava, you got your hand up? Oh, you're muted, Ava. You got to unmute. I love the questions. Sometimes I just think we should just come on here and just chat. But I like to prepare. Listen. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
So, like, our chicken got sick and we had to give her salt water baths. And
Oh, okay.
she got really sick and had a really bad thing going on. Water belly. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
she passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
What?
It's tough to lose
How
one.
do you prevent that?
How do you prevent that?
Yeah.
It's, don't feel too bad because, and I'm saying this to all of you, if you have livestock, you're going to have dead stock. That's just the reality of having animals. Sometimes all people eventually are going to pass away, and the same thing with animals, and some live longer than others. And so sometimes your birds are going to get sick. Sometimes they might get parasites acting on them. They may get viruses, like we're learning tonight about a virus. And there's not a whole lot you can do sometimes to prevent that. But here's what you can do. Cleanliness of your facilities where you feed and water your birds, where they roost, where they live, their coop. Good nutrition, feeding them a balanced, nutritionally balanced feed appropriate for their stage in life. Those are the two biggest things I can think of to keep your birds healthy: cleanliness and nutrition. And then if you can protect from the parasites, I think all those things are going to help strengthen that bird's immune system. And if they have parasites acting on them, that's going to help weaken the immune system. If they're not in a good nutritional place, that's going to weaken their immune system. If they live in a dirty environment, dirty water, that's going to weaken their immune system.
Dr.
So,
Chris, you have
yeah.
3 hands up.
Oh, okay.
Samira, Lily, and then Akia.
Well, let's go with whoever had their hand. I don't know. Whoever wants to go, let's go.
Samira, Nadia, and then the third person name cut off.
So our chickens are laying eggs that are smaller than others.
Are they younger chickens?
No, they've been like laying for like a little over a year, I think.
Did they stop laying and now they're just starting to lay again?
No, they just they lay, but one of them stops laying, and we only get 5 a day now, but we have 6 chickens. But
Yeah,
some of them are just giving smaller eggs.
they do that when they get towards the end of their lay cycle sometimes. They're probably getting ready to, which is kind of funny that they do it this time of the year. Usually this is when they're really starting to lay. But when a bird goes through a lay cycle, sometimes she'll start laying smaller eggs and then her legs will get bigger. And then towards the end, sometimes they'll taper off in size. Now, typically on a bird's second, third, fourth even lay cycle, they're going to lay some jumbo eggs. Typically the first lay cycle, she's going to lay not her biggest eggs in her lifetime. And so my guess is these birds are getting ready to go into a molt and take a little break and just keep feeding them and they'll come back around.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Make sure they're getting a good layer, crumble or pellet or whatever you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who else had their hand up? Let's see.
For the water belly, if your chicken does get it again, I know this sounds kind of weird, but you're gonna have to stick a needle in their abdomen. and there will be kind of like water flowing out. And that also helps to see if your chicken has any diseases. Like she might have had this cancer. One of my chickens had it and it is uncurable. But just stick a needle in their abdomen, and if it's clear, that means they're completely healthy. If it's another color, check it out.
Yeah, that can relieve some of the pressure. That pressure sometimes is what,
Okay.
because it presses on their internal organs. And that's a lot of times water belly is a genetic. Some birds are just genetically more have a genetic predisposition to get it. And so sometimes there's not much you can do. All right, any more questions? I'm gonna get on with. I love the questions. We can always do this next month if we have to. But
We got it.
if you
Tracy has his hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Tracy. How are you doing, Tracy?
Fine. I got this Bantam Standard, but it's a pocketbook size.
Oh, is he there? Let me see if I can find your picture on here. Oh, you got the Bantam Standard Perfection 2020. That's cool. Where'd you find that at?
My father gave it to me.
Oh, that's cool. For those of you who may not know what he's holding up, the American Poultry Association, or APA, they publish a standard of perfection for large fowl and for bantams. I guess it's the American Bantam Association for bantams. And what it is, it tells you the class and breed and variety of every kind of large fowl or bantam. This book's got bantams. And we've talked about this in years past. Maybe we need to do another lesson on this. But all birds can be divided into a class, which usually is what part of the world they come from, Mediterranean or American or continental, English. And then by breed and variety is like color and comb type. Some breeds have several different colors and several different comb types, different things like that. So that's what's used in purebred poultry shows to determine a standard of perfection for a particular breed and variety. And so that's good to have in the study. Allie, you got another question? I see your hand's up now.
So my chickens.
So Allie is mom. This is Madeline. Sorry.
Oh, hi.
So I'm new to like raising chickens, and so not like really new. I used to raise chickens when I was younger, but one of my chickens started recently laying eggs, and I wanted to know how long she would be laying small eggs for.
What breed is she?
What breed is she, Mama?
1 second. Let me pull it up and I will let you know. Have it written down.
Dr. Chris, while she's looking for that, I wanted to share a book
okay.
with Tracy, or I guess everybody. So this is the book I've been reading lately. It's from 1960. I got it on eBay. It's pretty cool.
Poultry Science, and what does it say?
Practice. It is by Winter and Funk, the 5th edition.
Oh, cool.
Resume.
Okay. Sorry, Madeline. What have you got?
Okay, so Cinnamon is an Easter egger chicken.
Okay.
That's what they told us she was when we were given her.
Okay.
This is my reading.
And is she a bantam sized chicken, or is she a big full size? What we call a large fowl.
She's kind of like
I would say she's full size.
She's kind of big. She's a full size.
Okay, so she should lay pretty good sized eggs. Because some chickens, bantams, are just going to lay little eggs, or some kind of medium sized chickens lay medium sized eggs. So what people call Easter eggers, which are kind of crossbreds from the Americana or Araucana originally, those large fowl would lay medium to jumbo sized eggs. And so if she's constantly laying small eggs, it could be a nutritional issue, or it could be just like her age. If she's a very young chicken, she's going to start out laying smaller eggs. but as she matures, she's going to lay bigger and bigger eggs. And some now you might try if she's gentle or you can catch her. You can check the size of her abdomen. We learn this in poultry judging. You see how many fingers you can put between her keel bone and her pubic bones, and then in between her two pubic bones. See how many fingers you can put. If you can put several fingers in between each of those bones, she will eventually lay larger eggs if you give her good laying crumbles or layer feed, layer pellets, whatever. If she's got a very small abdomen, she may never lay a big egg. So you just want to check the size, check her, we call that abdominal capacity in chicken.
Okay.
And we in poultry judging, we use our fingers to see. I don't have the graphic pulled up, or I'd show you where to put your fingers. But if you look up where the keel bone is, which is the lump bone, the breastbone, the end of that in between her two pubic bones, and then in between her two pubic bones, which is kind of down there on her towards the bottom of the chicken, that'll give you an idea of how big her abdomen is.
Okay, thank you.
Either that or the chicken's a bantam.
Yeah, if she's a bantam, she's never going to lay a great big egg. All right. Did we have any more questions? Prudence, did you cover all this that's on this slide last time? I don't know if it may be different kids that were on too.
Yeah, mostly I talked about the farm cleanliness and lines of
Okay.
separation and that sort of thing.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
So this
But
time
they
I
heard
knew
you
did
weren't
that
here,
last
so
time.
there wasn't a whole
Yeah.
lot of people on. There's a whole lot on tonight
Well,
compared to what I had, I
everybody
think.
from-
We're glad
The
you're back.
last time I knew you talked about biosecurity, and I thought that would lead naturally into this, and we could talk about, it's good to talk about things sometimes more than once. So what was my last slide? My last slide was about just where we find avian influenza. So avian influenza is a viral disease, and the actual virus itself. Now we're getting into some virology. And some of you may go on into medicine. You may get a career in medicine. You may get a career in veterinary medicine. I know we have Laura on, and I think, if I remember correctly, Laura had an interest in veterinary medicine. Maybe I'm misremembering that, but I know some of you have interest in veterinary medicine. And so I'm sure you'll take a course on viruses and virology, however you say that. And there's a couple of different ways to classify the avian influenza. In other words, there's more than one type of avian influenza virus. There's several strains. You'll hear about the strains of flu. Basically, it's different ways to classify a virus. And you could classify, two of the ways they classify the avian influenza virus is by the type of protein found on in the virus. There are hemagglutinin or H proteins, and then there's neuraminidase or N proteins. So H and N proteins. And there's 16 different H proteins and 9 different possible N proteins. And if you do all the math, you'll find out that there's about 144 different combinations of these proteins that, in other words, there's 144 different types of bird flu virus. They're not different types, different classifications. It's the same virus, but there's these different variations in protein allow us to classify these different variations, 144 different ones. And of course, some of these are more pathogenic than others. So that leads me to two thoughts. One is, do you all know what the word pathogenic means? Who knows what that's kind of a big fancy word. Do y'all know what a protein is? Right? We've talked about protein when we talked about feeding chickens. So I hope you know what a protein is, the building block of our muscles. We feed things like soybean to chickens. We introduce poultry to the diet like soybean meal, or if you feed meat to chickens, or things like that. That would be where we get our protein in our diet, from eggs, or an excellent source of protein, chicken meat. But protein is also found in things like viruses, and it's amino acid combinations. So I'm getting very scientific with you all, but I know you're smart, and I know you can understand this. And so hopefully you know what a protein is. How about pathogen? What is a pathogen, or what is when something is pathogenetic? What does that mean? Does anybody want to take a guess? I bet Laura knows. I bet Bimini knows. I bet several of you know. I bet. But some of you may not know, and I don't want to take for granted. Madeline, you got your hand up. You know what it means to be a
Virus.
pathogen? What's that?
Virus.
Well, yeah, a pathogen, a virus can be a pathogen, that's for sure. That's a good point. Tracy, you have any idea? Tracy knows a lot of stuff. Ava knows a lot of stuff. Who wants to take a guess when something's pathogenetic, what am I saying it is? You hear that word a lot. Well, maybe not a lot, but you hear it sometimes. Madeline, you want to try it?
Something that's toxic and possibly can cause harm.
But yeah, I like that. Something that can possibly cause you harm. In other words, some of these influenza virus classifications, some of the little combos there, they're not as serious. You might get a little bit sick or maybe not much sick at all. You're just carrying the virus around. But some of them are pathogenetic. And that means they're a problem. When you get this particular strain of the avian influenza, it's going to make the chicken sick. And there are some strains that might make people sick or that might make other animals sick. And so when we say something is a pathogen, you said it beautifully, Madeline. I think that was Madeline that said that. This has the potential to do damage or has the potential to cause harm. And so I could be walking around with some viruses right now that I don't know about that aren't pathogenic. I'm just carrying them. And if I get some viruses, though, they're going to be pathogenic. I'm going to start coughing, or I'm going to start having, maybe runny nose, or my eyes are going to, something's going to happen. I may get very sick. I may get violently sick. Who knows? And so some things are more pathogenic than others. And so in avian influenza, I mentioned that we have like these 144 different protein combinations. Well, the protein combination that's the most pathogenic that I'm aware of is H5N1. And that's the one you'll hear about when you read that in the paper. Well, nobody reads the paper anymore. When you read that on wherever you get your news, or you hear about H5N1 avian influenza, you as an informed 4-H member will know that they're talking about the protein combinations, those hemagglutinin and neuraminidase protein combinations that are actually a part of that particular strain of the avian influenza virus. It's the H5N1 combination. And that means it's pathogenic and can also potentially be pathogenic to humans. And that's why people like to talk about it, because people care about things that are pathogenic to themselves. And so H5N1 sometimes. If I've totally confused you all, I know this is some upper level stuff, but I am not afraid to present complex material to the members of this club because you all are smart. But I hope I'm doing it in a way that you can understand. So if I've confused you, please let me know.
I am a little bit confused.
Okay. So, and it's not like I'm going to give you a test. I just want you to sound smart when you're talking to your grandma or be informed. So basically, let me see if I can explain this in another way. There's all different kinds of bird flu viruses. Some are more dangerous than others. The way they classify them is by the kind of protein that they're kind of floating around with. And there's 144 different kinds. The bad one that we talk about the most is the one that's known as H5N1. Is that a little bit clearer? I try to cut some of the science mumbo jumbo out of it that time. Does that help you a little bit? Maybe not. Anybody else?
Crickets.
Crickets. So I've totally lost them now. Well, maybe I'll just move on to the next slide. Laura, do you understand? If Laura understands, I'm okay because
Yeah, I understand.
she's very
I
smart,
understood
and
when
she's
you said
also
it that time. I was trying to
okay.
nod. Like I was going like,
I didn't realize the camera was off.
All right. Hopefully, I haven't totally confused everybody. All right, so how avian influenza spreads. And this is where we're getting into stuff where you all might actually care. So how avian influenza is spread, there's kind of two main ways, and then we're going to expand on one. So one is directly. And when I say directly, that means that one bird with avian influenza comes in contact with another bird that doesn't have avian influenza, and it goes directly from one bird to another, or one bird to several birds. And so that could be one chicken to another chicken. That could be a wild bird, a grackle, or a duck, a wild duck, or I know some of you all live around ponds. You may have some of these Muscovy ducks, or maybe some kind of songbird comes and drinks out of where your chickens drink out of. That's kind of, or hangs around your chickens. That would be directly. Indirectly would be like Miss Prudence talked about with Amazon driver. Or I misspoke when I said if the bird drinks out of that would be an example of indirectly. So if a wild bird comes and drinks out of your chicken water and then flies off, and then your chickens come later and drink out of it and get the avian influenza virus, that would be indirectly. Smuggled poultry, we have a lot of problems with people slipping exotic birds around and not, out of country birds or whatever, I guess. We see that mostly with like parrots and different kinds of birds like that, but that's a way that could be indirectly spread. So basically, if a lot of times you see this with wild birds would be the most common. Lily, you have a question?
So is there any type of bird that would be unable to get avian influenza? Because, like how geese can't get rabies.
Well, a lot of the wild birds can be carriers of it and maybe not show symptoms of it. But that doesn't mean that they can't carry the virus. And some birds are more, how should I put this? Even though they're carrying it, they may be less predisposed to showing adverse symptoms. Does that make sense? So they may not look sick. They may just look like normal birds flying around, wild birds, but they're carrying avian influenza. That's why it's hard to control, because sometimes the wild birds have a little bit better immunity and they don't show some of the adverse effects of it. So, and I don't know what that was. We had some kind of cartoon character in the chat. Oh, did somebody draw that? Then I saw like a scary guy. Oh, Tracy shared the scary guy. I don't know who that is. But then I think they drew a picture. That's cool.
That looks like Sarah that had drawn the picture or posted the picture.
Yeah.
Or maybe she tagged Sarah. Maybe it's Olivia. I'm not real sure.
I know some of them in this club can draw real well because they sent me some drawings recently. So how does bird flu spread? This is kind of more in
Aiden Aiden, is your hand up or are you?
Go ahead, Aiden, if you got a question.
I want to say something. I'm going to go on stage and reply. Me and my mom are going to go talk to the commissioners and see if we can get our chickens back.
Oh, are you in like a county, like the county commission?
Yeah, we're trying to get our chickens back.
Oh, okay.
Do you live in Cape Coral?
We live in Lehigh.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's hard for us down here in Lee County.
Well, if you want a letter, I can't tell the commissioners what to do, but I can verify that you're a 4-H member if that helps. Sometimes that helps. Depending on where you live. Some counties have different laws, the cities. So, but I hope you can get them
Aiden, are you gonna go to the meeting?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, so in our county up in Northwest Florida, our county doesn't have an ordinance, but some of the smaller cities have ordinances, and they were trying to get ordinances passed countywide, like not in a city area. And I actually went and testified on behalf of several of my 4-Hers that were in the program with poultry. But so yeah, I would, if I were you, I would go, and if you have a good speech written,
We
if
do.
you have a Banny chicken you could take with, oh, they took your chickens away? Take some
Yeah.
pictures of you and your chickens then with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe talk about some of the. I mean, I want to tell you what I can't really get political in this club, but if you want to talk about some of the things you've learned in your poultry project,
Yeah,
that would be good too.
me and my mom helped me write my speech. She wrote her speech. So we're gonna go up on stage and try and
Oh,
get our
okay.
chickens back.
Well, that's one thing we learn in 4-H is how to advocate for ourselves, for our community. You know, we learn about chickens, but then we also learn how to be good people and how to be involved, you know, civically and this sort of thing. So I'm proud that you're doing this, and I'm proud you're doing that. Is an appropriate response, is to go talk to your elected officials. You know, you can,
That's
when
right.
things don't go your way, you can get mad and do things that aren't good, or you can do things that are good, and that's an example of an appropriate way to handle your frustration, is to go talk to your elected officials. So my hat's off to you for doing things the right way. And I'm sure you'll do a great job. And I hope they'll let you have your chickens.
Yep.
All right, where was I? Talking about, but Tracy, you got your hand up now. What you got, Tracy? You're muted though, buddy. Tracy's muted. We didn't hear you. Still muted. There you go.
Aiden, I think you should write a speech about them taking other people's birds away too. Sound good?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Because not everyone deserves that.
Well, you've got a lot of supporters here, you know, Aiden. Everybody wants you to get your chickens back. So, and I understand why there's laws in place for different areas, but I'm not going to editorialize on it. But I think a lot of times if you're in 4-H or FFA, they'll let you have project animals. So hopefully it'll work out for you. I've written several letters for some of you in this club to whoever, I don't know who I sent them to, that you're in this club and that you have a poultry project. So hopefully it'll work out for you. All right. So how does the avian influenza or bird flu spread? Well, people are potential sources for introducing the disease to domestic birds. And that's what Ms. Prudence was talking about. If the Amazon driver or whoever goes to a neighbor that has chickens and then they step in manure and come to your place and they have that manure on their boot or shoe, they step around and your chickens peck at it, as chickens will peck at anything gross. You all know that. That's a way for it to spread. It can be moving. So manure is a good way for it to move. Egg flats, crates, other farming materials that's moving. You know, maybe you go to a yard sale and they've got all these egg cartons for sale for $0.25, you know, and you're like, oh, I'm going to buy these. And maybe they were laying in a place where they weren't quite so clean. And, you know, maybe that, I mean, you don't know. I'm not saying don't be afraid. I don't want you to live in fear. I just want you to be informed. So don't think that every egg carton that somebody gives you is a potential vector for, I mean, it really realistically is a potential vector for disease, but I don't want you to live in fear. Just know how to disinfect things. There's things you can do to that egg carton to make it perfectly safe to use around your birds. And so we have to understand how to do things. People who may have inadvertently picked up the virus on their clothing, shoes, or hands, you're probably not going to be invited to a lot of commercial poultry operations because of biosecurity. They don't want to take the risk of their birds. If you ever do, I can assure you, you're going to go through a lot of steps before you ever set foot around any birds. Walking through foot baths, probably even if you work on a chicken farm, a commercial chicken farm, they're going to have a lot of protocols in place before you get out of your car and walk into actual wherever the floor is, where the birds are. You're going to be doing some things like changing some outer clothes or putting on protective clothing, walking through some foot baths, hand washing stations, that sort of thing. to protect the birds. And I'm sure Miss Prudence talked with you all last time about that. I know she did.
Yes.
She talked
So
about
dressing in and dressing out at commercial farms is a big deal. I actually studied a case where there was so the people would come to work and they would have to take a complete shower when they get to work, and then take their street clothes off, take a shower, then put their work clothes on. So they were dressing in and dressing out. And it was funny. And then after they got dressed in their work clothes, guess what they did then? They clocked in.
Oh, they didn't clock in until they get out. To me, I would think that would be part of the pay process. But
That's what the case was about. They were upset because they were like, I've been here 45 minutes and not getting paid for it. So,
yeah, I think they might have a good case. Well,
yeah,
what was
they
the
did.
result? What was the so they did get okay?
Yeah, they
Yeah,
did
yeah.
end up back paying everybody. We got all kinds of hands flying up now,
Oh,
though.
okay. Well, I see.
Lily,
I
Megan,
see.
and Madeline. You got them?
All right, go ahead, Lily.
Also, if your chicken gets sick, don't be afraid to use something, even if it says do not, like, if it says it's only for one species, that isn't necessarily true. Like, I use ivermectin, and it's supposed to be only for horses. I use it on my chickens, and it works just fine.
Well, if I, as your 4-H specialist, cannot recommend extra label usage, but your veterinarian can. So if you have a good relationship with your local veterinarian, they're the only ones who can theoretically recommend off-label usage, because the reality is not a lot of stuff is labeled for poultry anymore. And that's not to say things won't work. So I can't tell you to use ivermectin on your chickens, but your veterinarian can. So legally. So have a good relationship with your local veterinarian.
I
And so-
personally have used it, and it works pretty good on sick chickens. It works the same as medicine.
Well, it's an anthelemetic. It kills parasites, so it kills a lot of different parasites if used properly. But again, not labeled for chickens. So get your veterinarian. If you're going to be in, just make sure you have a good relationship with your local veterinarian. All right, let's see. Megan.
Question. Can the bird flu affect people too?
Some strains can. That H5N1 strain can. Now it hasn't. This comes around. I don't know. This is like the probably 4th or 5th bird flu news cycle that I've been a part of in my lifetime, and the tens of thousands of cases just haven't. It's typically hundreds of cases, thankfully, that people, and I'm talking globally. Maybe Prudence might know. They always think it's going to be this mass case, and thankfully, up to this point, it's usually been a few hundred cases in a particular area of the world that have been very serious, and not a lot of deaths. There have been some deaths. Don't get me wrong; it's not to be scoffed at. But thankfully, we know kind of how to curtail some of the spread of this, because we understand chickens and we understand viruses. And so we kind of know how to stop some of this. And the big thing about a virus is if you get it, there's not a whole lot you can do. You just got to let it run its course. So that H5N1 is the one we typically are worried about as far as human cross contaminate, infecting humans, is the H5N1 strain of avian flu. All right, Madeline, let's see. What question might you have for us?
So if your chicken gets, if you don't know about it, can it get passed on to the egg?
Theoretically, it could. Now, the act of cooking, unless you're eating egg raw, if you cook that egg, it's going to kill it's going to make the virus, it's like the meat. You could, if you ate a raw chicken that had avian influenza, that could make you sick too. But we typically tend to cook chicken meat as we do eggs. And so that's why I always recommend to cook your eggs and cook your chicken, up to a temperature that will kill viruses and things like salmonella as well. And when you're I know a lot of you, and we do it in this club all the time. You all will come in the house and snuggle a chicken. When you're done, wash your hands. Don't put your fingers in your mouth. Don't rub your eyes. Don't pick your nose. When you're done playing with your chickens, wash your hands with soap and water real good. What's the ABC? You're supposed to sing the ABCs, I guess, we may be able to do a thing on hand washing. One time when I was doing a day camp, we put this goop on kids' hands and told them to go wash their hands, and then we put it under a black light to see how good a job. Have y'all ever done this activity? Prudence is shaking her head. She's done it
Oh
with
yes.
kids too.
So we do it a little different when we do it at our forensic camp. Just to show where everybody's touched. So like as soon as they walk in, they put it on their hands and then we just forget about it. And then
Oh,
at the end of the
that's
day, we
fun.
see where all their hands have been.
So
Lots on
please,
the front of the jeans, a lot on the front of
yeah,
the jeans.
when you're, yeah, I bet. When you're done gathering eggs, feeding your chickens, cleaning their water, anything with your birds or your dog, cow, anything. When you come in the house, wash your hands real good with soap and water and dry them. That's the simplest way to stop a lot of this. And then cook your eggs and cook your chicken, and you should be okay.
And
All right.
Megan had her hand up, but then it went away. So I don't know if she
Oh,
changed her mind or forgot her question.
No, I just changed my mind.
yeah. Okay.
Oh,
All right. Let's see what we got here. Protecting your bird. This is where probably y'all are actually interested in. How to protect your birds from avian influenza. Now, there's no surefire way to do it, but there's some things you can do based on, again, also on what Ms. Prudence said last time about biosecurity on your home flocks to protect your birds from avian influenza too. Keep germs away, and that means keeping your waters fairly clean. You know, you can wash them once a week or once a month or whatever you think works for you. Keeping your feeders clean, keeping where you store the feed clean, limiting visitors. You know, maybe if you've got friends with chickens, maybe you don't necessarily, again, it's not to say that if you have a neighbor that has chickens, they're definitely going to infect your birds. I'm not saying that, but they could. So limiting visitors is a good idea. Limiting contact with wild birds and pests. Now, this is where it gets to be tricky because some of you all have, and that's why I put the little cartoon up earlier, because I know some of you free range your birds, and the birds love it as long as they don't have predators preying on them. They think it's great. They love it. But it can open them up to contact with wild birds or mice or rats or things that might be carrying disease. And so that's the trade-off. The birds are very happy and they like it, but something could eat them, something could give them a little bug, a virus or a bacteria share with them. So and those of you that have your chickens in coops, they're probably going to be much more protected against but they're going to come in contact with wild birds because if it keeps the chickens in, there's a good chance it's keeping the wild birds out. Now, your birds aren't getting the exercise and the fresh air and the sunshine, maybe that the others are, but you're keeping them. I mean, it's a trade-off. That's why there's no wrong way to do it. As long as the bird's in good health and you're feeding them and taking good care of them, you can't hardly do it wrong. So I don't want to tell you, oh, you must keep your birds in a coop or you must have your birds free range. No, you do what works for you and your birds, and you do your best to take care of them. And have a home biosecurity plan. And I know Ms. Prudence talked about this last time, so that's why I made that a bullet. Lily, you got another question?
So speaking of protecting your birds, what do you do if there's a gator in the pond and you have ducks that love to swim in the pond?
Well, I would try to keep my ducks away from the pond, at least when the gators are around, because I know ducks are a favorite for gators. It's a dangerous situation for the ducks, yeah. But if they're free range, it's going to be hard to keep them. They love water. Ducks love water, so it's going to be hard to keep them safe. So.
And then I have another duck that's half blind, but she does not act like it. Is there any way I should keep that eye away from infection or anything?
If it's clear, I mean, is it like a cloudy looking eye? Usually sometimes I go blind. It's like a cloudy looking eye.
Yeah, it's
as long
cloudy.
As yeah. As
and
long
then when
as
I
it's
do
not,
this, she doesn't move. She just doesn't move.
yeah,
I do this.
it's probably okay. I've got a rooster like that, an old rooster that's got kind of a blind eye, and he is perfectly fine. I mean, he's happy, and
Yeah.
actually, he's the boss down there because he's the oldest one. And so, as long as it's not like weeping or you don't notice any goop or anything around it, it should be perfectly fine.
No, nothing like that. It just
Yeah.
like there's no precautions I should take with that eye.
Not really. I mean, they look like little pirates if you put a patch on, but it's probably going to fall off. So there's not a whole lot you can do. So just,
Yeah.
yeah.
I do check it like once a week.
Yeah,
though.
just keep your eye on it. Just not, no pun intended. Just keep an eye on it and make sure it's not, if you start seeing matter in it, or if it starts like, how it's like it's crying, and then you might want to get, so you can buy there's an Ivomec that's labeled for eyes. And I think you check and see if it's labeled for poultry. But anyway, if it's not doing any of that, I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay.
All right, Megan.
So our rooster's recently gone to a fight, and the other one, the rooster pecked his eye. What can we use to sanitize his eye?
See if you can find a spray that's labeled for, like a saline solution would be one thing that you could use. And he might not save the eye. I think that's how my rooster got blinded. As another one pecked his eye years ago. That just seems to be something that roosters like to do to each other. But you might try a saline solution or find a good spray that's labeled for chicken eyes. I don't know if Vetericyn has something. I know they have an eye spray. You'll have to see if it's labeled for chickens or not. But that might be something. Or if you got a vet, you can ask a vet, hey, explain what you explained to me. And we're not allowed to make off-label recommendations, but you can ask a vet and they can tell you what to do.
Dr. Chris, I put
Yeah.
a link in the chat for the Defend the Flock website. And this is through the USDA. And I also attached, and Olivia, I did not mean to send it to you privately. I was scrolling and accidentally took it off and sent it to everybody and sent it to you. So I'm not trying to tell you anything. But there's also a biosecurity workbook, excuse me. It's 19 pages that they can go through. And this is made up by the USDA's Department of Animal and I forget what it all stands for, APHIS. And Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service. And so there's some things on there that they could do.
Ms. Prudence,
But Madeline has her hand up.
well, when you upload our recording of this, could you put that link on our little website or Google
Yes,
site?
sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, Madeline, go ahead.
So if one of your chickens has like a disease, would it be better to separate them from the rest of the chickens?
Yes. If you have a chicken that you suspect is sick with anything, it's always a good idea to keep them separated because that direct contact is the easiest way to spread viruses and pathogens, pathogens like viruses, bacteria, coccidia, all that sort of thing. And so definitely have a place where you can keep a bird isolated. That's a good practice. All right, so let's see what our next slide is. And look at here. That's a good, I'm sure Miss Prudence talked about this last time, but I'm just going to reemphasize it. And there, number one, isolation. Both if you think you've got a bird that's sick or if your own whole flock, keep it isolated as much as you can from wild birds and other people's chickens. If you get new chickens, like if you go to some of these like auctions that I used to go to when I was a young man, I don't even think things still exist. They used to have these auctions where they'd sell chickens and ducks and calves and pigs and goats and junk and all kinds of stuff. And I used to love it when I was a kid because I tried to get my dad to bid on stuff for me. But when you do that, you got to, and we didn't think about this when I was a kid a lot, but a good idea is if you buy at a place like that, or even you buy new chicks at Tractor Supply or order them from Murray McMurray or whatever, isolate those new birds first and make sure they're okay before you introduce them to the rest of your flock. and then limit traffic and then sanitation. Those are the biggest things you can do. Hopefully Miss Prudence agrees, because I know she talked about this last time. I didn't see her slides.
Yes,
But,
sir. And I did post in there, I just looked online. As of April 8th, there have been no cases of the highly pathogenic avian influenza identified in Florida residents, meaning people, birds, or dairy.
Yeah, so Florida, thankfully,
So
and I
far
was
we're
shocked.
good.
We were very concerned right before the Florida State Fair, because Georgia had shut down their shows because they had some cases in Georgia. And being in February, the winter of the year, what do birds do in the wintertime? They fly where?
Here.
They fly south, yeah. And so I just knew, oh boy, this winter we're going to get some, because the Midwest and California, up north, even in Georgia, had been dealing with this. And I just knew that, boy, we're going to get hammered this winter when the birds fly south for the winter. Thankfully, we didn't.
Well, and Dr. Chris, on March 29th, we had our annual chick chain show in Washington County, and we had 68 kiddos check in 110 birds. And we passed out booties. So I said, as they were checking in and coming into the barn, I had pockets full of booties I bought. And the ag inspector was like, I really appreciate that, because nobody would think about their shoes.
Yeah.
I was like, do you wear those shoes in your barn today? Are your chickens free range? Do you need shoe covers? And I was wearing shoe covers because when I went and got my chickens the day before, I didn't change my shoes. So I was wearing shoe covers.
Yeah, that's good practice.
Yep. So
shoes are one of the top ways to spread. Yeah.
We had a good show though. It was I'm glad it's over until next year.
Well, let's see. The next slide is signs of avian influenza. So if you notice it, sometimes your birds can get it and not even have any. If it's one of the less pathogenic variants, you may not even know they've got it. And is it really that big of a deal? I mean, if you're not seeing a sick bird, how would you even know? But if it's one of the more pathogenic kinds, here's some signs that they may have it. Sudden death. Now, every disease chickens get, the first symptom is death. So a lot of times you just have a healthy chicken one day and then you go out the next day and it's dead. And you don't know why. It could be avian influenza. It could be about 1,000 other things. And so there's labs that will do, if you really wanted to know, you could send the bird off to a lab. There's one in, down in Kissimmee. There's a few around the state that you could send it to, and within a few days you'd know, but there's a charge to that too. And it's amazing whenever we talk about disease in birds, typically the first symptom is death. And it's like, wow, that really helps a lot. But maybe some of these other symptoms might help. Now, a lot of these other symptoms are for about 1,000 other things too. Lack of energy and appetite. Well, that could be 100 other things. A drop in egg production or soft-shelled, misshapen eggs. That also could be about 100 other things. Swelling of the eyelids, comb, wattles, and shanks. Stumbling or falling down. That could be about 5 or 6 different things. Diarrhea. That could be about 1,000 things. Purple discoloration of the wattles, combs, and legs. That could be about 4 or 5 things right off the top of my head. Gasping for air. That could be 3 or 4 things that I can think of. Nasal discharge, coughing, and sneezing. Twisting of the head or neck. There's about 3 other things that could be too. But these are signs of avian influenza. And as you can see from my editorializing on these things, and this is directly from USDA, there's a bunch of different things that have these same symptoms. So just because you have a sick chicken doesn't necessarily mean you have avian influenza. But here they are. This is some of the symptoms or more common symptoms for acute avian influenza. All right. Well, that's kind of it for our avian influenza, but I did want to show you all a video if you want to watch it. But we have a question from Lily. So Lily, ask your question, and then we're going to talk about avian bowl, and then we'll end by watching a video on avian influenza. So go ahead, Lily.
So, like last year in like about October, September, somewhere around there, one of my roosters died, and we saw a scratch on his comb and thought it was a snake bite. is that what it was likely to be, or was it probably something else?
It could be a lot of things. It could have been a snake bite. It could have been a predator that reached in and grabbed. Did you find him like in the morning, or you didn't know? Like, was he alive
It was in the middle of the day.
midday? Yeah, I mean, it could have been. He could have had a heart attack. He could have.
He was a very
gotten
healthy
sunstroke.
chicken.
Yeah.
The only injuries I could find was a scratch on his comb. That's it.
Got to remember their necks aren't very strong. So if something could have grabbed its comb and broke its neck, like a raccoon or some other predator, a hawk could have snatched it, broke its neck. If a hawk could have scared it and had a heart attack. I mean, these things happen. And so just because you had a rooster dead doesn't mean you have an outbreak of avian influenza. I hope I'm not panicking you all to think that every time you might see some dead bird or something sick that it's definitely you got a case of avian influenza. I hope I haven't done that to you all, because the likelihood is you probably don't have avian influenza. As Miss Prudence said, we haven't had a lot of, yeah. So don't just necessarily think that just because you have a sick bird or a dead bird that you've got to. In fact, not this year at the Florida State Fair, but last year at the Florida State Fair, 2024 Florida State Fair, February 24, a bird died at the fair, one of the show chickens. And there's like 400 chickens at the fair, and one died. And they shut down the barn at the Florida State Fair, and they sent the bird to the state veterinarian's lab in Kissimmee. And that chicken show was shut down for 2 days. You couldn't, no exhibitors could come or go, and nobody could, the whole barn was shut down. You couldn't bring the birds anywhere. And it came back that the bird had had a heart attack and died. And this was a healthy chicken. This was somebody's show chicken, like an expensive chicken. But they said, I was talking to one of the guys there in the poultry barn, a friend of mine. Well, Joe Walter. He's been on our meetings before. He helps run the show. He was like, we were going to have to euthanize all those birds if it came back avian influenza. I mean, there's like 400 birds in the barn. People spent several $100s on these birds. And
Yikes.
He was like, I didn't think it was avian influenza, because he's got a degree in poultry science. He said, I was fairly confident it wasn't avian influenza, but we had to check anyway. And the bird had a heart attack and died. Not that, I mean, that's not good for that particular bird, but it's very good for the rest of the birds in the barn that it wasn't avian influenza. So don't think just because you have a sick bird, it's avian influenza. I don't want you to think that. Bimini.
So was that in 2024 or 2023? Because I showed chickens last year at State Fair in 2024.
Well, maybe it wasn't this year's fair. I think it was the year before. Did you hear a horse run? A horse, can you all hear that horse whinnying and running around in the background? I'm on my porch.
No.
Maybe you can. You can? That horse is the reason. Anybody want to buy a horse?
Turn your background off, Chris, so we can see that sweet baby that's so misunderstood.
Well, he's way off in the pasture. He's running. I can hear him running around bucking.
He does that, huh?
Yeah. Well, he's a young stallion, and I'm too old. When I was a young man, I had 2 good horses that died last year of old age. One was 39 years old, one was 29
Oh, my
years
word.
old. And they were good horses, and I could ride them. And that left me with this young stallion that I got from somebody. And when I was a young man, could handle a young. I think I'm about to get to an age where I need an old gentle horse or something. I mean, maybe I need a golf cart. I don't know. But when I try to ride a young stallion, I wind up in Shands Hospital. So I need to do some more. I thought I'd done enough groundwork with them, but evidently I didn't do enough. And the hard ground is a lot harder at age. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but at my current age, the ground is much harder
Chris,
than it was
don't be
15
vain.
or 20 years ago. But well, I don't want to scare the kids. I'm getting so old. They'll be afraid to talk to me. They'll think I'm an old man. They probably already think I'm an old man. Well, I am an old man, but I'm older today than I ever have been.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
I've kind of embraced it. The other day I said something about being 48 years old, and I was like, yeah, I'm 48.
Yeah.
I've got there.
Well, I got you
Yeah,
beat by 2 years.
I made it.
All right. So the last thing I want to talk about today
This is
is
what I want to hear about.
the Avian Bowl contest. So this is our fourth annual. This summer will be our fourth annual. It's scheduled for the Alachua County Extension Office on Friday, June 13th. And we start at 10 a.m. or thereabouts. And it's registration's open in 4-H online, I guess. It's already open. And it's like a game show for chickens. And
How long
so
does it go, Chris? Is it
we
like a
usually,
get out at 5 p.m. or
oh, no,
noon?
we're done by noon. Last year we
Oh,
were done
okay.
by last year we were done by like 12:30.
Okay.
And so it's a game show style, so counties can enter teams. And if we wanted to have a virtual club team, we probably could put something together. But there's you can have a junior, intermediate, and senior team per county. So we do it, but we don't cross age groups. In other words, and a team can be 2 to 4 members. So if you have 2 juniors, that could be a team. It's just harder with 2, but so anyway, 2 to 4 people make up a team in a particular age group. And the winning senior team goes to Louisville, Kentucky in November to compete. And Miss Prudence can tell you all about that. And maybe she'll go with you because she likes going to that. Maybe I'll go one year. Maybe I'll go this year. I don't. But I think we've gone about 15 minutes over. Do y'all want to watch this little short video on avian influenza, or do you want to be done?
If you email it to me, I can post it.
Watch the
Oh, somebody
video.
they want to watch it. Okay. And Tracy and Akia have their hand up.
All right, go ahead, Akia. Are we saying that correctly?
It's Akea.
Akia, I'm
Akia, sorry.
Akia.
I know Taylor. Akea.
Akia.
Do you know where the avian bowl is?
Yes, it's at the Alachua County Extension Office,
Thank
which
you.
is if you go on 4-H online, it'll have the address there. I don't know what the address is. It's Newberry
It's
Road.
in Newberry.
Yeah, Newberry Road in Newberry, Florida, which is Highway 26. I don't know the exact address, but it's in 4-H online.
Pretty much all there
And
is there.
if you sign up for that contest, you will get information from me. It has the address and everything.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yeah. And there's a study guide. You can study. All the questions come from the study guide.
Is the 4-H age for this year or for next year?
The 4-H, whatever you were September 1st of 2024 would be your age. So if you were a junior September 1st of 24, you're a junior for this contest.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to do a part?
All right. Well, let's watch this. Let me stop sharing this and see if I can find this video. I had it pulled up. I think I still do. And
Excuse me, Chris.
yeah.
Did you know that the Ag Fest is also coming up too?
That's a big poultry show, isn't it? Ag Fest.
And I also have a thing with Newcastle's disease. A picture and the symptoms of Newcastle's. Can I show it on chat?
Yeah, put it in the chat, and maybe Miss Prudence can put it on our website too. All right, I'm going to share this video. I'll try to.
And what's the name of the YouTube channel that this gets recorded on?
Well, she has a Google site. Maybe she'll put
Yes,
the link in the chat.
I will put it's a tinyurl.com. And I think it's Florida. Hang on, I'm gonna have to verify the address before I share it.
Yeah. Well, let's watch this real quick.
I can't hear it.
What? You can hear it.
I can't hear that.
There's no volume on the video, Chris.
Now let me see if I can figure out why. This is turned up. This is turned up. Still
We
can't
heard
hear it?
that, Savannah. No.
No? Well, I'll just send you a link and you can paste it in our.
I'll do it. There is the Tracy, I put the link in the chat, so it's Florida 4-H, but Florida's abbreviated and the 4-H doesn't have a hyphen in it. So it's Florida 4-H Poultry. So tinyurl.com/Florida 4-H Poultry.
And I put a link to the video.
Okay.
I was having all kinds of fun.
And I'm going to add the Defend the Flock as well.
Okay. All right. So I'll stop sharing with that. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to discuss this evening?
I've got to go discuss supper.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thank you all very much. Thanks, Miss Prudence, for covering last time for us.
Yes, sir. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I've still got a ways to go. All right. Well, have a good evening, everybody, and I'll talk to you later. Oh,
Could you send the competition to my mom's Facebook, please?
We will. What I'll do is I'll send an email out where Dr. Chris invited everybody yesterday with the website link and the information and the study guide. I'll get all that together hopefully tonight and shoot that out.
Oh,
I got to
thanks, Miss
upload the
Prudence.
video though.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I've already got 2 kids registered for Avian Bowl, so I'm
Oh,
excited.
good.
And
Fantastic.
Ava has a question as well.
Oh, go ahead, Abe.
We'll see you next time of the next video.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope to see you next time.
Bye.
Anybody? Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Marilyn, do you